Imagine standing in a dimly lit room, the walls closing in slowly, as though the very space conspires against your breath. The silence isn't peaceful. It's heavy, suffocating, and filled with an unnamed dread. Somewhere in this room, behind a mirror that reflects not your face, but your unspoken fears, lurks something you refuse to name. It is not an external threat, nor a stranger you can easily cast out. It is something far more insidious, the manifestation of unconscious behaviors, the shadow within others that gnaws at the fragile fabric of trust, respect, and shared humanity. Carl Jung, the pioneering psychoanalyst who plumbed the depths of the unconscious mind, warned us that there are behaviors, 7 specifically, that no soul should tolerate in others, for they betray the very essence of human dignity and psychological health. These are not mere social faux pas or moral missteps. They are corrosive acts that fracture the psyche, shatter relationships, and set loose chaos in the hidden corners of human interaction. What makes these behaviors so perilous is their subtlety. They rarely announce themselves with blaring alarms. Instead, they creep in under the guise of charm, normalcy, or even righteousness, only revealing their destructive nature once damage has been done. They are shadows not only cast by others, but reflected back in our own denial and silence. Why must we refuse to tolerate them? Because to do so is to invite a slow poisoning of the soul, a surrender to forces that erode our collective and individual integrity. Jung's warning is not just clinical advice. It is a call to awaken, to recognize the signs of toxic behaviors before they seep into our lives like an invisible poison. Let us begin by exploring the first of these unacceptable behaviors, one that undermines trust at its core, yet is often excused or minimized in daily life. Trust is the fragile thread on which all meaningful human connection hangs. Without it, we are islands, adrift in a sea of suspicion and loneliness. Yet betrayal, whether in the form of lies, broken promises, or manipulative duplicity, has become alarmingly common. Jung understood betrayal not merely as a moral failing, but as a rupture in the psyche's foundational structure. When trust is broken, the psyche experiences a fracture that can ripple outward indefinitely, damaging the betrayed person's ability to form future connections and often leading to a deep existential wound. But why does betrayal hold such a devastating power? The answer lies in Jung's concept of the shadow, the unconscious part of the self that contains what we refuse to acknowledge about ourselves. When a person betrays, they are often acting from a shadow driven by fear, insecurity, or a desperate need for control. They hide their true intentions beneath a mask of trustworthiness, using deception as a weapon. The person on the receiving end is left to grapple with a profound cognitive dissonance. The image of the trusted one contradicts the reality of deceit. This dissonance triggers an intense psychological pain, shaking the very foundation of how one perceives reality and self-worth. In relationships, betrayal is sometimes rationalized with excuses like everyone makes mistakes or it wasn't meant to hurt. Yet Jung's warning cuts through such rationalizations. Betrayal is an attack on the soul's capacity to believe in others and, by extension, in oneself. Refusing to tolerate betrayal means demanding authenticity and integrity. It requires courage to confront the shadow lurking behind deceit and the willingness to break away from toxic relationships that undermine our psychological health. The power to say no to betrayal is a call to reclaim our psychological sovereignty. To walk away from deception is to step into a new light, leaving behind the shadows that once chained us. It is a painful awakening, but a necessary one, because tolerance for these shadows allows them to grow unchecked, poisoning the soul and warping the very foundations of trust and human connection. We stand at a crossroads between the poison of tolerated darkness and the remedy of conscious awareness, authenticity. In the vast cosmos of our inner worlds, there exists an eternal watcher, a presence of unwavering vigilance and profound awareness. This guardian does not judge or condemn, but observes with clarity the shadowed behaviors Carl Jung warns us never to tolerate. It is this watchful consciousness that empowers us to recognize the creeping darkness before it takes root, to confront the hidden forces within ourselves and others. By cultivating this inner guardian, we reclaim our sovereignty and step into a light that dispels deception, fear, and toxic influence. This is the ultimate act of psychological courage, the courage to see clearly, to set boundaries firmly, and to preserve the sanctity of the soul.